Oh hey buddy, what the hell is this?
Oh come on, I'm just slamming a couple League games. What's the problem with that?
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
Dude chill, you're being way
What's
too
that?
overdramatic about this.
What's that, brother?
You know what this sounds like to me? A skill issue.
This is a Smite channel, I got a fucking image to maintain.
You spend so much of your time playing Smite, dude. Play another game.
Why are we still here?
You're right, Smite 2 is out. We've now had access to the Smite 2 alpha for a couple of days now, and after playing it I can say, it's certainly Smite, but actually in a good way. There are some quirks that come along with the alpha of a game that need to be ironed out, but a lot of the gods and mechanics felt good to use. When the server and client weren't fighting over custody of the kids. And as I played over the weekend, I made a few notes on what I think of the game. But before I begin, something to note. This game is a true alpha. Things are subject to change. But I want to go about this preliminary review as if the game was moving forward in this direction. Not shipping as is, but as if these choices are the ones they are going to refine. And now that we have that out of the way, let's move on. First I want to talk about the good. Smite 2 feels like Smite. While a lot of the core mechanics have changed, playing the gods feels mostly the same. The effects are nice, and the attacks feel chunky with the new health bar system. The gods also look a lot better compared to their Smite 1 counterparts. It's almost a night and day difference. Also, being able to play any god in the roster almost anywhere is a really fun design choice for veteran Smite players who have been combined to 1 or 2 roles for each god. The only thing I really worry about with this choice is that new players will have a much higher onboarding problem. For example, take Athena. In Smite 1, she was usually support with a mild ability to jungle. After a few games, a player can figure out, okay, you play Athena in support. But in the Smite 2 system, people are playing Athena in almost every role, making her clear identity very muddy and hard to track. Sure, they can read through a wall of text and technical jargon to get the gist of how she's a tanky support solo god, but practical experience usually trumps all for a newer player. To build upon the flex picking point, I do like the item shop, as it allows for much more creativity when it comes to builds. Stuff like Hunter, Zeus, or Anubis builds, Mage-like Neith builds, Assassin-like Athena builds. Now, I mostly defaulted to stuff that seemed similar to Smite 1, like the Gauntlet of Thieves replacement when I played support, but it was really refreshing to see some of the funky builds with the new items. Next is the bad, and these are mechanics and aspects that I just do not like. I absolutely hate the interact mechanic. It completely breaks the flow of combat, and in the case of the camps, it gives an incentive for a teammate to be actively malicious in stealing a buff, rather than just accidentally walking over it. You're adding a level of intentionality that hurts what you're trying to fix. And while grabbing camps are instant, the gold objective and Warhorn feel terrible. In my opinion, it should be scrapped and maybe revamped for a version of the old system. And this isn't to say that I don't like the evolving camp concept, but I hate having my character stop for 3 seconds to cast a generic looking interact that looks like you're crafting in World of Warcraft. Another thing I do not like are the portals. In comparison to Smite 1's teleporter, these feel a lot more tacked on. In Smite 1, there are some funny moments when fighting around the teleporter where half the team fight just moves to the other side of the map. Is this annoying? Yes. But was it fun? I would also argue yes. It added a dynamic element to the game that feels a lot more clunky and artificial in Smite 2. On top of that, you only have one ward, and usually it's not worth warding the portal side of the jungle, as ganks are most likely to come from the camp side. And for my last problem, this is my largest sticking point. I do not like the loss of Smite's unique art style. While the graphics were dated and the semi-cartoony style was a necessity to hide that fact, Smite 1 had a unique style that was cultivated after the 11 years of iteration. High polygon tree models are nice, but what happened to the bombastic set pieces that even the Smite 1 beta had? The only functional difference between the Chaos and Order side in this game are that the trees are orange or green. If they want to go for a more realistic style, they should, but they shouldn't lose out on making the map look more fantastical rather than the generic looking map we have now. It's a game about gods battling, not LARPing in the forest. Finally, I get to the ugly. I don't have too much to say here, rather than I feel as if the change for the sake of change, especially when it comes to the items, is unnecessary. Take for example this item. This is just Gauntlet of Thebes. Why is the name different? It serves no benefit to Smite 2 and just creates more onboarding problems with your already established player base, not just new players. And look at Shoguns. It has the same icon, but they changed the name for seemingly no reason. The only thing I can speculate they did this for was so that players didn't default to pre-established Smite 1 builds and experimented more. But this is more frustrating than it is clever. This ultimately isn't a deal breaker for me, and this is why I didn't include it in my bad section, but I feel like this needs to change. And to coincide with this, thank God they did not change VGS. I still stand by Smite 1 VGS being the best callout system that gaming has to offer. When they adopted it in Paladins at the beginning of its life cycle, it was easy for me as a Smite player to pick it up and learn it, but then when they changed it for the sake of change, it got worse. And this is just from the outside looking in, but ultimately, these change for the sake of change choices that Hi-Rez usually makes usually are a detriment to their games. Rest in peace, Realm Royale. While I may seem overly harsh on some of these aspects, it's because I want the game to succeed. I want it to become bigger than Smite 1. Besides, as a Smite content creator, I have personal gain for this happening. I'm not a doomer about this game. I actually think that this has the potential to be just as big as League, if it's done right. But those are just some of my thoughts. Leave some thoughts down in the comments so I can see and respond to some of them. And with that, I hope you have a good day.